Boston establishes itself as the theater community that it is. I mean, we don't need to compete with anybody else. We're
That's
just
absolutely
fine.
true. Rob Orchard from Arts Emerson was on our show last week, and he did say that theater in Boston is alive and well today.
It's very alive and well.
Between Emerson and Broadway in Boston and Suffolk University. And,
and Lyric and New Rep.
Yeah, the small companies.
And Speakeasy and Company One and even Public, who unfortunately had to go on a hiatus this year. But I think somebody will step in there and fit their criteria. It is. It's very healthy. And then all the colleges. I mean, they're doing fine.
Yeah. He said Curry, Emerson.
Yeah, Emerson, right. Well, even Boston Conservatory's new theater.
Boston University with the Huntington Theater.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
You know, I think this is my own opinion, because I'm a lot older than you.
Not that much.
I won't say
older than me. However,
I am.
Aside from that, we remember a time when artists in early TV and so forth, and radio and records, were people like Perry Como, Sinatra, and so forth. And then all of a sudden, and I've insulted people with this line, all of a sudden the rock period came in. And I always said that rock music gave those people with no talent a chance. You know? Now think of that for a moment.
Yeah,
you know?
I'll buy that.
Yeah. And but the kids followed it, you know, and everything seemed to go downhill to that level. But now that's over. That is over. And a good example of that are our students in Boston. They're above that.
Way above it.
Way above it. And nobody can knock Boston, because we are on par to New York.
We were talking yesterday, Jimmy Tingle and I were talking yesterday. I'm actually working on the show, that the new film debut screening that he's doing at the Brattle first weekend. Well, actually, it's Columbus weekend. And Jimmy and I were talking, and I think the thing that I'm most proud of, I have an 18-year-old nephew, and, you know, they grew up in an era where I think so much of the things that closed people off don't exist anymore. I mean, I think they're pretty open-minded. They may be very much video game oriented, but I think they're very open-minded. And I think language is on a comeback. I think that's what's happening too.
I hope so.
I don't think email is as bad as people think when it comes. You have to think about what you're writing.
Yeah.
You too. You have to think about what you're writing. And if you don't, you're not going to have many friends.
That's right.
People, actors, whether they be male or female, today, there's more opportunities for them in theater and in television and in movies than ever before. Back in our day, there was called Colbert, there was Fred McMurray, there was
the old standards.
So you had, you had this and this clique, you know. And but today, you'll be looking at a show, Law and Order, for instance, or one of those shows, and you'll see an actress from Boston.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
You'll see people that you've seen in Boston.
Absolutely.
Working in that.
Absolutely.
And so there's more opportunity for those folks who are watching us, the young people, or anybody. There is always an opportunity if you have the talent.
Well, I mean, you can. I mean, it's a long list of people that have cut their teeth here. Well, I handled Sheer Madness, as you know, for a number of years
I love
too.
That show.
And it's so great. It's so much fun. It's 30 years old last year, and I looked back. We did some archive work, and I looked back, and that photo at the 25th anniversary is amazing. I mean, it is the who's who, and more. I mean. But, Kathy St. George, Nancy Carroll, Karen McDonald, Paula Plum, Alice Duffy, the list and list and list.
Dustin Hoffman, who came from Boston.
Well, that goes back to those days.
Yeah,
I mean, we're trying, a friend and I, we're trying to, encourage people to do some Boston theater history archive work right now. The TCG conference comes to Boston in June. We're the host. That is the Theater Communications Group. That's a big deal. And that means that we really are on the map as the hosting city. And so we're really looking into what can we do for all those people visiting that's really going to tell them what theater is about in Boston. And all of our advocacy organizations, such as Stage Source and Arts Boston, even the other genres like Boston Dance Alliance, they're all working together to really shine the
wonderful?
arts.
Wow.
Yeah,
It really is.
I think it's a wonderful thing when a smaller theater company can have the opportunity to present their shows in a large theater.
Oh,
You know,
that is.
you don't find that in too many communities around the state.
Yeah, no, it's
but
very
in Boston, it's encouraged.
It's very true.
And you can see if they need a larger stage, they can go to the Schubert maybe or
Exactly.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yep.
it creates a whole new environment for them,
Right.
and it gives them the drive that they need.
Right. No, it's very true.
And that
Well,
happens in Boston.
Right, it does. Well, and there's almost, how I would say, a nurturing order with the way that the Boston Center for the Arts have worked, too, is, there's the little black box, then there's the Boston Center, the Plaza, which is a
Right.
little bigger.
Yeah.
Then there's the Roberts, which is a little bigger
Yes,
than that.
yeah.
And as you know, Speakeasy did actually get into the Wimberley
That's
a
right, they
couple of
did,
years
yeah.
ago with Little Dog Laughed. And I believe they're going to do that again this year with Red.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's on
And
their schedule.
So you're right. That's an exciting step. And then something is super successful. There are places to go. I mean, there is room. I remember one of the big complaints about the city. I'll go back to probably early '90s. Was we didn't have enough theaters. We've got plenty of theaters
We do
now.
now.
Now we just have
Now
to,
we do,
now-
sure.
Yeah, now we do.
Yeah.
Now we have to figure out who goes where and how it all works out.
Joanne, what's your feeling on the closing of the Colonial?
I don't know a lot about it. I think powers that be will work it out.
I hope so. We asked Rob Orchard that question last week, and he said, well, he has, I think he said 3 theaters to worry about.
Yeah.
To the complex of the Paramount
Yeah.
and the Majestic.
Yep.
He said, I would love to do it, but I'm very busy now. But he said,
He'll find the time.
There is a bright future for it.
Yeah,
now,
there is.
There was a rumor that John Platt was interested in coming back. And I've got my fingers crossed. I hope that happens.
I hope that happens too.
Yeah.
I do. John, as you know, John was the producer for the Spelling Bee National
That's
Tour
right,
that I did.
yeah.
And, John and I go way back. We shared an office. But I do hope he finds a way. I mean, as of spring last year, he had 7 shows on Broadway.
Did he I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was actually one of the title
He
producers
is so
on
busy.
7
I
shows.
got to tell you this about John Platt. When Blue Man Group opened,
Which I opened.
yes, that's right, you opened that. I was walking up Boylston Street, and I met John Platt because I knew John slightly. I knew his cousin Jim, who worked with me at Channel 25.
That's right.
So we had sort of a relationship. So I said, well, good luck on the new show on Blue Man Group over at the Charles. He said, oh, yeah. He said, I hope we get 6 months out of it. And that was how many years ago?
I think we're coming up on 15.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 12, 15. Yeah, and now I did opening to 2006.
Wow.
Yeah,
God.
yeah. It needed fresh eyes.
Yeah.
There is, it's a funny thing. As a publicist, sometimes you have to say, someone else's turn, fresh eyes, good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And I think that's true in other artistic places too. It's a good idea to have somebody else take a look at it. I had finally gotten them to do the Pops Goes the Fourth the summer of this 2007. And that was actually sort of one of my dream goals, was to have them perform on that stage with the Pops, and they did it. And so I felt,
That's
okay.
wonderful.
They're like a tradition in Boston now.
Yeah, they are.
They've been
They
here
are.
so long.
Yeah, they are.
Way
They are.
back when Sheer Madness opened for the first time, I interviewed do you know the story?
Yeah,
I interviewed the producer of it, the redheaded kid,
Marilyn or Bruce?
Bruce.
Bruce.
And I said to him live, I was working for RKO at the time, that show's going to last at least a year. And he said, really? You think so? I said, absolutely. Well,
31 years later.
yeah,
I think at 25 years you saw him again.
That's
and
right.
You mentioned
he invited
that
us to a revival of the
Yeah.
damn thing
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
another thing is, yesterday I was watching a movie that had I like to see old movies that have new prints. And I was watching, like New York, 42nd Street. And Julian Marsh says, "You got to be a hit. We got $50,000 tied up in this show."
A mere piddly amount today.
All these 200 people working, and I'm thinking, you couldn't get through the door with $50,000 today.
There's a great story about the first week of Sheer Madness. It was being tested in Lake George. Both Marilyn Abrams and Bruce Jordan were part of the summer stock out there, and this was actually a German, and I won't remember the name right now. It was a German psychological thriller that Bruce got his hands on and turned into Sheer Madness with some help from other people.
What genius.
Wow.
And it had audience interaction, but it really was scarier than Sheer Madness is funny. And I think it was week 2 here in Boston. Everybody who visited from Boston to Lake George said, "Oh, you've got to do it in Boston. You've got to do it." So they came down here, rode around in their bicycles trying to find somebody who was interested. And finally they found the Charles Space. 2 of the people who came, I think in the first 2 weeks, were Mike Nichols and Buck Henry.
Oh, yeah.
And they came together.
Wow.
I mean, in that era, they would have been the comic geniuses of their time,
Yeah.
right? And they turned and they said to Marilyn and Bruce, "This is perfection. Don't worry."
Yeah.
They knew.
They knew.
That's great talent.
They knew,
Wow.
yeah.
Charles Playhouse, wonderful theater. I remember
is.
seeing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest there, and during the last part of the play, somebody from the audience, a woman, stood up and she said to the nurse, "It's all your fault." And the actress, she kept right on going, never paused. And I said to her after we were doing an interview, and she said, "Oh, I was shocked." And I said, "But don't you think that's the ultimate compliment?
It is the
That
ultimate
she
compliment.
was into that hard?"
It is the ultimate
It
compliment.
is, and
Yeah.
I said that is the greatest compliment you probably
That's
will
right.
ever
Yeah.
receive.
That's right.
Yeah, I have one of those moments. I was in New York seeing The Rink with Liza Minnelli and Chita Rivera, and Liza did her turn number, I thought everybody else was applauding like I was, and all of a sudden it was very quiet, and you hear this voice from the back, "Well, I liked that." It was me.
Perfect.
Dead quiet, and I went, "Okay, I've now announced I enjoyed that to everyone, and I'll be
You're
quiet
now on
now."
record.
Yeah, so, but I think it's going to be a great year. I do. I think it's going to be a great year in Boston. Everybody's busy. I actually put together the Greater Boston Theater calendar this year.
Good for you.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Okay, wow.
yeah.
Are you on the computer? People
I
can
am
look up?
all-
yeah.
Well,
I mean, your windows there?
I don't actually have a website. Is that not
Oh, well,
funny?
yeah.
No, I have a Facebook page,
Okay.
and I have a Twitter account, but I don't. I always think the one-on-one interaction
Yeah.
is the way for
I
me.
agree with
but,
you. I like
But
that.
eventually, I'll get there.
Yeah, because the local barber in Quincy is not going to put money into a show, so he wouldn't know where to go anyway. Most people don't realize what goes on in the background
No, that's
for a
very-
show. I
that's
mean,
very
come on,
true.
it is something else.
Yeah.
It is very, very true.
Intense.
Yeah, very true. Well, and I think Arts Boston and Stage Source is really improving their website this year too. They're really good locations for people to find out what's
Yeah.
going on in the theater and getting into discussions on each of the theater groups' websites. There's great conversation going on amongst audience members too, which is fun.
Joanne, we've got just about 1 minute
Yeah,
left, so
yeah.
let's just reprise the shows that you have coming up. Tell us about that once more,
I have
quickly. Yeah.
Jimmy Tingle's American Dream, the debut of
Okay.
his new film documentary at the Brattle. And that is October 7th through the 10th.
Yeah.
Through the 9th. And then High with Kathleen
Right.
Turner at the Cutler Majestic, December 6th through the 11th.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that she kisses Don again.
Yes.
And I have one that I didn't mention.
Oh.
Ben Sears and Brad Connor, who are known as a cabaret group, Ben and Brad. They also have an ensemble called American Classics. And they
Oh.
do wonderful researched American history music.
We have to go.
Okay.
Well, that's
Wonderful
great.
talking to you. We love you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Joanne, thank you so much. Joanne